Well, hello folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you, and let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up the screen here. Aitx, A to the I to the T to the X. We're going to go over, they got several important things that came up this week. The residential device interests me quite a bit. We're going to talk about that. The Otcqb uplisting, the 10Q, when we're going to see, 10K, when are we going to see that? Let's do an update on Aitx and kind of see what's going on with it. All right, let's start out with what's going on in the market. It's pretty much been crazy, up and down, erratic as crap. We're dealing with insane inflation, and I told you folks many, many months ago that I thought it was between 12 and 15%, back when they said it was 4 and it was transitory and all this other garbage. It's not transitory. It was never transitory. It's not going to be when you've got payroll inflation going through the roof. How is that going to come down? Not that it necessarily should, but it's not gonna. Secondly, you've got gas prices through the roof. There was no plan to deal with that, so how was that going to come down? So how could it possibly be transitory? It makes no sense. And here's the thing. If you've got high gas prices and high oil prices, everything's going to go up because everything starts with that. How are you going to get a product from point A to point B? How are you going to do it? You going to do magic? You going to be Genie and do that? No, you're going to have to ship it. If you ship something, I don't care what it is or where it's going, you got to have diesel. Where does diesel come from? From oil. How high is oil? $110 a barrel. It was probably 90 or 100 back then. It's not coming down, especially going into the summer. Are you kidding me? So you're sitting there with that. And you know everything you've got to get is way more expensive to get to you. Let's say you're a retailer, okay? So now you've got a higher price item to sell. Secondly, the people that are going to sell it costs more to sell it because your payroll's gone up. Okay, the manufacturers that made the item, they got to pay more because payroll went up, and then all their raw materials had to get to them. Well, how did they get to them? They had to be shipped, right? Okay, so there you go. So everything costs more. Food costs more because guess what it takes to produce food? Tractors, trucks, things like that. What does that cost? A whole lot more when diesel goes up, when fuel goes up. And the people that drive those tractors, they don't work for free. They got to be paid more. So all of those things make high inflation. That's how it works. And to sit there and call it transitory is the silliest, most ridiculous, stupid thing I've ever heard. And here's what we were getting a few months ago.
Remain calm. All is well.
Yep, that's what we were getting. All is well. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Now here's what we got.
Everybody panic! Oh my God!
That's right. So everybody's panicking now, and they're panicking because of a lot of reasons, like we just discussed. But the biggest thing is inflation is just killing everything. And now what that leads to is the good old-fashioned recession. And that's pretty much what we're in. I think we started it a month or so ago, and now we're in it. And of course, all the stocks have been, we're in a bear market now. Everything's down over 20% pretty much. And if you've got any high growth stocks, you're way down, way more than 20, but they're just talking about the overall market. And it's bad. And I don't see it improving anytime in the very near future. Now, there's a lot of good buys out there, no question, but are we to the bottom? Who knows? We're going into this recession. At some point, it's going to start turning back up. We'll go into a bull market. We'll kind of see that there's going to be some politics involved in all that. We've got a big midterm coming up. We'll see how that goes. But right now, I don't like the path we're on. I just don't. So while I am buying, and I have been buying every day, except I didn't buy Friday because things went skyrocketing back up. And I was like, that's probably fake. And of course it was. This week it came back down. And I'm just waiting for big, giant pullbacks, and that's when I buy. And I never buy on a green day. I usually buy on a red day, and it's got to be a bad red day, and especially if there's multiple ones in a row. So I'm being real patient. And like I say, that's what's going on in the market. Now let's take a look at Aitx since I bored you with all that. All right, they just put this out. Gosh, this wasn't long ago. It says RAD's parent company Aitx intends to file for listing on the Otcqb, and that's within 10 days of filing its year-end 2022 10K, which is expected in May. And we'll take a look at when the actual day we expect that. But obviously, it's going to be probably towards the very end of May. And I think it was June 1st of last year, and we'll double check that when they filed it for the previous year, and realize, Aitx, I believe their year ends February 28th, whereas most companies it's December 31st. So the fact we're getting end of year this late into the year doesn't really mean anything. It's no big deal or a red flag or anything like that, because they're 2 months past. So always remember, everything's 2 months past with Aitx. And as far as them uplisting to OTCQB, that's a good thing. I see that as a very positive move for Aitx for very simple reasons. That means they're going to be much more fully audited by a company that's actually authorized to do that, because when you move from Pink Sheet to OTCQB, you've got to be audited a little bit more fully. And so as investors, that's going to make you feel more comfortable with their numbers and realize, it's still a penny stock, and penny stocks, they don't have the best reputation. So the higher they're listed, the more people trust them. And that's just kind of the way that it is. Now let's talk about the thing that interests me really the most on this, and it kind of surprised me because Steve Reinhardt has always said, he's the CEO, and you probably already know that he was not going to go into residential with the ROSA or something along those lines, even though he's been asked to by a lot of his shareholders, I know, because there's a lot of folks that would like to have that security around their home. And it says here, we've been working towards this announcement for quite some time. The consumer market is hungry for the next wave of home security solutions, and RAD will be ready to deliver. The consumer has been led to believe that existing home security cameras are part of a smart home. Just wait until they see what RAD Home System can do. We're going to redefine the word smart. So I think that's a freaking great idea. The company also confirmed that initial production will be in Q4 of this year with a limited launch of between 1,000 and 2,500 units. Pricing, distribution, and other details to be announced at a later date. I'll be super interested in the price of that. Depending on what that cost, I might have an interest in that for myself, rather than just having a camera on my home. I might like that. But, it depends on what it costs. If it's super high, I wouldn't do it. But, if it wasn't ridiculous, I would. It says, I also expect that we will adapt other devices for our commercial safety and security line to residential use over the next couple of years. Again, I think that's pretty damn smart. That makes a lot of sense, because there's a ton of us out here that security is a big deal, especially for your home and your family and all that. So I like that idea. So there's quite a few positives on Aitx. I think they've got like 8 ROSAs that were recently ordered. I think that was in the last few days. And, I keep hoping they'll get one of those big giant orders of like 100 units of various, whether it's a Scott, ROSA, and the Romeo, et cetera, a big, huge order from a giant company. I know they've got a couple of those put out there as possible orders, but, until you get it signed and you start getting the money, that's a little different animal. But like I said, I'd love to see that happen. But it sounds like it's pretty positive the way it's moving forward. My big concern with Aitx, and the only reason I'm sitting on the sidelines for it, is because I'm concerned about how much money they have on their balance sheet as far as cash. I'd like to see them have a lot more money sitting on the sidelines ready to go, because I think they're in that high growth phase, and that requires a lot of money, especially even though it's software as a service with products. It's not just that, but you need money. This is a brand new sector. These are brand new products that nobody's ever used before, and it's hard to change. And even though they're a first mover, one of 2, I think the other one's Nightscope, I think. Well, Nightscope has solved their money problem by raising $40 million when they uplisted to the NASDAQ. I'm concerned about Aitx having enough money. I like their products. I think long-term they can be successful, but I just want to make sure they have enough money. And until I see that, I'm going to be uncomfortable investing in it. That's what's holding me off. So let's see what they're dealing with, and I'll explain it to you. As you can see on their balance sheet, this was the last time they showed us what they had. It was $4 million, and they had about $7 million in assets. And this was their profit and loss, gross profit of $230,000. But then when you get, they've hired a bunch of folks because, they're anticipating a lot of big orders. So that's human beings, and they don't work cheap. These aren't minimum wage jobs. So, the loss from operations is almost $5 million. So I want to see them with a lot more money on their balance sheet so they can ride through this growth phase without having to make tough decisions. So the stock itself, let's actually put this in a smaller thing here. As you can see, it dropped all the way down to just about 1 penny. And then it ran back up to where there's some support right here at 1.5 cents, and now it's sitting at 1.6. It had been at 1.6 forever right here. It just kept lingering right in here, and this was weeks and weeks. And then it pulled all the way down to a penny. Now it's sitting at 1.6 again. So it's had a nice little comeback, which is nice to see. Let's take a look at their market cap. All right, so it's sitting at $54 million market cap, which there's no PE ratio because they have no earnings. They haven't made any profits, so there's no way to do a PE ratio, which is difficult. And that's not abnormal for a penny stock, by the way. That's pretty normal, but you're not going to be able to do any value investing on it with a PE ratio. So market cap of 54 million. It had dropped all the way down in the 30s, obviously, when it went down to a penny, which would have been a pretty decent pickup. Right now, there's some excitement that pushed it back up. So like I say, I want to see them get some money on that balance sheet. That's the only thing that's really holding me off. All right, folks, and that's just an update on Aitx. Look, I haven't covered this thing in a couple of weeks because it's a little tough to cover Aitx, because if you say anything positive about the company, you get viciously attacked by the bears who are trying to push it down. Actually, let me take a look at what the short interest is on that thing. I need to know that, or the short volume. Okay, so we're sitting at 44% volume, which is quite a bit. So there's a lot of shorts out there keeping their eye on this thing. And like I say, you're going to see them a lot on social media. They like to attack this company big time. And the other reason that I haven't covered it a whole lot is because if I say anything about, oh, they don't really have enough money sitting in their balance sheet to make me comfortable to invest, oh, you no good SOB, how dare you question that they don't have enough money to satisfy you. Look, I know they have a way to raise money, and we can show that. They're sitting at 4.83 billion outstanding shares. They have authorized shares of 5 billion. They haven't sold any recently. It's been kind of sitting at that 4.8 billion, but they don't have a whole lot of room there, especially when you're talking about 1.6 cents to raise a bunch of money. They can sell at 90 cents on the dollar to a company and then raise it that way. And they could raise this authorized shares. They could take out loans. They could, there's other ways of raising money. I'm not saying they can't. They obviously can and easily can. But when I bring that point up, oh my gosh, you get the how dare you bring that up. Well, I'm going to bring it up because that's what's in my mind of, hey, I'd like to invest in this company, but I'd like to see at least $20 million on the balance sheet. They could really use 30 or 40. That's what they need to really get through this growth phase comfortably and in a manner to where Steve Reinhardt's and his staff can make the decisions they need to make. They can raise the money, intermittently, but I'd rather see them kind of do it in more one or two big phases. But, that's up to them. Like I said, there's many ways they can raise money in the OTC, especially as they get, up to the OTCQB. That'll actually make it a little bit easier for them. But that's what I want to see how they're going to do it. I want to see more money on that balance sheet, and then I can feel more comfortable investing in the company long term anyway. Right now, I would be more interested in the short term, but in this market, it's tough. So anyway, I like the company. I am rooting for them. You might as well just know that. But like I said, I'm holding off right now until I can get just a little bit more comfortable with the long-term vision of how they're going to be able to do this in a way that is most helpful to the company. All right, folks, that's Aitx today. Just wanted to have a little rundown. Haven't covered it in a little while. And they got a lot going on. I like this residential device. I like the uplisting to the OTCQB. 10K coming out probably June 1st, if I had to guess, is when we'll actually get our eyeballs on it based on what happened last year. Anyway, that's Aitx. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'd certainly appreciate it. And I hope you did like the content. And we'll see you next time on Mr. Frugal Investor.